First question, how many of you are managing engineers today? Oh, shit, you guys are gonna hate this talk. Great, so I actually wrote this talk to kind of illuminate my perspective on what engineers could be doing better with their bosses. I'm an engineering manager, specifically VP of engineering at ShopKeep. We're about 40 engineers, 2 offices. Started as a lead, was the director, now the VP. We're growing really fast. I'm responsible for day-to-day operations stuff, technical strategy. We're hiring Go, Ruby, iOS developers. We're growing really fast. So with that, I wrote this talk from the perspective of, I wish this was something someone told me when I was just a regular developer. I wish my manager had this conversation with me. So I think it'll be good. So let's reflect for two seconds. Let's talk, what does success mean to you in your role, in your life, in your job, all these kinds of things we talk about. We have goals maybe, I don't know, maybe not, who knows. I kind of just love going hacking all day. Maybe that's the thing I do. So let's be honest, does your boss know what your goals are? Does your boss align to what your success is, or is his success totally separate? How do you align your boss to what you think, or your manager, or your mentor, whatever it is? So why not, right? Why does he not know that? So let's talk about it. Let's talk about alignment, right? What is alignment? I want my employees to feel aligned to what my goals are, and they should have goals that roll up into my goals, right? The company's goals, my goals, everybody through the entire organization, across all the layers, we should all be rolled up into whatever the high-level company goals are. Do you feel that way? I think that's an interesting thing to reflect on and think about. You and your manager should be aligned and going in the same direction, right? Direction's really important. Are we going in the same direction? Maybe I have some idea about our infrastructure, I want to go that way, and you have this other idea, you're going that way, and this other developer over here, and this other office is going that way. How do you kind of get everybody aligned in the same direction? I think you'll find commitment is really important as well. Success, our own success. Do I want to be CTO one day? Do I want to start my own startup? What are you committed to doing? At the company, are they committed to you? Maybe not. There's a lot of companies that burn people out, right? It's consulting, it's business development consulting, it's a thing. So let's talk about goals. I think goals are the most important thing you can know about, and a tool that you can use as a developer and as a manager to align people to be successful. I actually have a line in here. It says, demand goals from your manager. So a lot of people don't have goals. A lot of people don't have goals that their manager set for them. I've talked to a lot of people about this. I'm like, so how do you know if you're doing a good job at work? I'm like, well, my manager says I'm doing a good job, or I write a lot of code, or I'm opening a lot of pull requests, or I'm shipping a lot of features. And I'm like, yeah, but that's day to day. How do you know you're moving forward in your career? How do you know you're growing? How do you know you're developing? These are really important things. I think probably the one takeaway you should take away from this is have goals. Have goals written down. OKRs is really interesting, objective key results. There's a Google Venture post on it. It's really, really interesting to see how Google does goal setting. They roll everything up to the highest level, and it's completely transparent. Everybody can see everybody's goals throughout the entire organization. Really, really crazy stuff. Cool. So what are goals? Goals should be set at a micro and macro level. Week to week, quarter to quarter, day to day. It sort of depends. You should have this conversation with your boss. You should have this conversation with your manager, your mentor, whatever it is in the organization. Maybe you're the pinnacle of the organization. Maybe you're the CTO. You still have a boss, the board. I don't know. Maybe you have someone you really respect that's done this before. You should have goals. They should hold you specifically to those things. Goals should have measurable success metrics. One of my goals actually is publicly speak more about engineering management once a quarter. I'm talking today. I'm going to talk at Recon next week. I'm talking about empowering developers there as well. And then goals should drive your personal growth, right? It's not just about the company. We're people, right? We should be growing. We should be getting better. Recruit and retain 1 senior engineer a month. That's a goal that I have. That helps me because that's really hard to do, especially in the ecosystem we live in today in New York, but it also helps really drive toward the company. That's what the company needs to grow. And then goals should be challenging. I have a goal, cut the monthly infrastructure costs in half before the end of the year. That is a goal that I have. My boss wants me to have that goal. I don't really want to have that goal because it's going to be really, really challenging. We're doing a lot of stuff, but we'll see how it goes. So I actually wrote this on the way here. I was thinking about it. This is pretty great. I'm going to tweet that one out. Goals are acceptance tests for the real world. I think this is probably one of the cooler things I've ever written, which I agree with. I think it's really, really important. Goals are so important. How do you know you're doing a good job? Just like tests, same thing. Let's talk about feedback. Demand one-on-ones with your managers. Demand a feedback loop. Please, for the love of God, take your manager, make them buy you coffee, make them give you feedback. Do it. You have to do it. How do you know your status? How do you know what's going on? Am I doing a good job? I mean, I'm writing code, right? I'm doing all the features you want me to do. The project manager's happy. But like, I don't know, maybe I'm not progressing in my career. Maybe he sees me somewhere else, or they see me going somewhere else. But that's not the direction I want to go. It's really important. And you're going to hear, oh, I'm too busy, whatever, I don't have time. There's nobody's too busy. Nobody. There's nobody too busy to take 20 minutes to have a conversation. So yeah, another important thing about feedback is don't be afraid to give feedback to your peers. Take some time out of your busy schedule, reviewing code or whatever you're doing, to give feedback to your peers. Constructive feedback. You come from a different world, you have different things, you have different ideas. People take feedback well, people want to grow. Transparency. Know where you stand in the organization. Feedback, transparency, goals, right? These are things that are really, really important. And the key here with transparency is you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be retrospective. You have to take a few minutes and think about, where do I want to go? Why do I want to be the CTO? It sounds awful. Budgets all day? That sounds like a terrible time. Maybe it isn't. Maybe that's something that you have a passion for, growing teams. I don't know. But take a few minutes, think about it. It's really important. Actually write it down. Set goals for yourself. So engineers, right? So being a manager sucks, right? That's sort of what people say. People think that. Actually don't think that. I think being a manager is about solving problems. Engineers are problem solvers, right? That's what we do. We solve problems all day. The only difference is you're solving people problems. You're not solving engineering problems. Challenging just as much the same, but it is worthwhile. Actually, I asked somebody who I made a new manager very recently, and I was like, yeah, so like, how do you feel about being a manager? And I was like, well, it sucks. And I was like, why? It was like really hard. I'm like, well, is it worthwhile? Are you growing? Are you developing? It's like, yeah, I am. I'm like, well, then maybe it's worth it. But you have to make a conscious decision to be a good manager. It's hard, it takes time. Consistency is really important. I'm going really fast, cool. Yeah, so this is amazing. So I really want to get rid of the term manager. I think manager is a really, really awful loaded term, especially in organizations that are growing. Fundamentally, managers are mentors. Leverage your manager as a mentor. You can always learn something, whether or not you respect them, whatever it is. They've been layered above you, whatever. Anybody in this world can learn from their manager something, I'm sure. It's really, really important. They've probably done your role. They've probably been in your shoes in the world that you're in that day. Maybe they have some really interesting insights to what you're doing. But look to them as mentors. Don't look to them as, oh, that's just my boss. He's going to decide my bonus. Sure, yeah, that is true. But they have more experience than you likely. They have good insights into what you can do better, what they can be doing better. They're going to take feedback. It's really important. So yeah, wow, blew through that. Cool, that's it. So final note. Actually, I advise a few tech companies here in the city, and every single one of them, if they just set goals, transparency throughout the organization, they'd be 1,000,000% more organized. Take that little tidbit. Questions, comments, concerns? Got through that quick. Sweet. Just drank. Cool. Thanks. Oh, sure. Sure.
Do you use OKRs?
We do not use OKRs. They follow what are you going to do this week? What are you going to do this month? What's your goal for the year? I really want to roll out OKRs. We're about 280 people today. It would be hard to do it across the entire organization. We'll probably do an engineering first. It's kind of beginning of the year. So OKRs are supposed to be quarterly or yearly. So they're pretty wide. It sort of depends on the role in the organization. I really want to do that, but it's going to take a pretty big effort from all the kind of engineering management. Sure.
How do you imagine mapping individual engineering goals that come from the desire of the engineer to grow
Sure.
to company level goals?
Sure.
That are set perhaps maybe top down.
Sure. So a goal for the company might be a revenue target, right? And then you're like, well, what is a junior engineer day to day going to do to make that better? It's actually really interesting. So how do we do it? We don't do a great job of it today, but from an idealistic perspective, what you can do is if the junior engineer is getting better and contributing more efficiently and writing better code and contributing back to the product development, maybe they have really good ideas, so get them to be comfortable about their ideas. Go talk to product people. Your goal might be do more code review. Be in more product management meetings. Be more in development meetings. Go out and reach out to these people who are signing these deals and talk to them about what they're doing. How can I get involved? So you can set the goals that are, they're sort of wishy-washy over. They're not directly driving revenue, but if you get enough people doing that, you actually will find from the bottom up, you'll start making things better in that regard. But it's challenging. It's really challenging. It's easier at the executive level, director level, lead level. It's pretty easy to tie those things because this product is going to drive this much revenue. Perfect. But how do the 8 people that are working on that kind of shake that out? It's very challenging, time consuming, but worth it. Sure.
I mean, you mentioned that OKR being public, I thought it was interesting. Do you think, how would you characterize the importance of making goals public to your peer group or to your department versus how much do you think there needs to be a private aspect of it between the manager and
Sure. I would say transparency of goals drives empathy. If I know what you need to do, I'm probably in a position to help you in some way. But if I don't know the context of why you're coming to me in the last minute to get help on something, I don't know why you're driving that. My automatic reaction is going to be like, no, I don't want to help you. But if I look at your goals and my goals maybe align in some way, where my goal might be reach out and help people in other organizations, their goal might be drive marketing revenue. So I might be able to go across the wall and actually help that person if I know the context of where they're coming from. I think it drives empathy. I think there are private goals probably. Usually if you're going to get managed out, you have goals that are improvement plans and these kinds of things, but I don't know if they fall under the same structure. I'm all about transparency. We should be as transparent as we possibly can at all levels. I think the only way for OKRs to work is to have the CEO's goals public. That's fundamental key. It starts at the top, goes the whole way down. How to get that person bought in, it's a bigger conversation, but see.
What have you learned about promoting individual engineers to management positions? How to get people up to speed on being first-time managers?
Yeah. It's an interesting statement. There's actually one in the room right now. Yeah, I think people don't want to be managers because there's a lot of negative connotations about what management is. I think technical leadership's an important thing. Once you can change the conversations where you're trying to lead and inspire people, you're not like doing HR stuff, you're not like signing off on their vacation, doing promotions. Once you can explain and help them understand that, hey, look, you're actually going to develop this person to be what you need to be successful. You run this project, this person you're now responsible for this person's success. I tend to feel like once people understand that, they look to empower those people. First-time managers, a lot of conversations, a lot of structure around how we do one-on-ones, those kinds of things. Very, very important. Documentation. I don't think we've ever hired a manager. I think I was the last one as a lead. That's the highest level. Everybody else is homegrown. It's a challenge. I don't think people want to be managers. They want to be individual contributors, they want to be architects, they want to be principals, this concept. But I think if you can take the negative connotations out of it, people will start to recognize that it is pretty worthwhile. Sure.
What do you mean? How much is it important to have like idealistic goals more than realistic goals?
That's an interesting thing. So the adage is you're supposed to have 10 OKRs, 7 of which are possible, 3 of which are impossible to help stretch you. Ideals like the last one I was talking about, the one about cutting the infrastructure in half. There's no way. I'm going to try. I look at it and I'm like, but it's something to drive towards, right? It's a goal. It's 0 to 100. It's not just 1 or 0, right? I think some percentage of them it's a way to stretch yourself. Might be, I want to be a better general manager, so I'm going to go help run a sales team. I don't know. Just as an example of something that's really, really hard to do, that's really will stretch you out. To answer your question?
Yeah, but it's important to hit that milestone, right?
Depends. Is it important to you?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it something you're bought into? Is this somewhere you want to go? Is it going to help you on your eventual goal of having a startup?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, long-term goals are sort of okay, but like short-term goals are very difficult to set to the realistic, idealistic thing. You know, weekly, monthly. But like if you look at yearly, idealistic goals are very achievable. But like short-term, it's very difficult.
Right.
So that's
It's
why I say-
definitely very difficult. And you definitely have to have a system around you that helps you with coming up with those goals. If you're the only one doing it in an organization, it will be very challenging.
Yeah, how to get people to like believe in that thing. Yeah.
Right.
Goals should be measurable. Was on the slides.
Right.
What are good examples of goals for coders? Because like number of lines of code written, number of forward.
No, it's just how you pay people. It's not how you say. No.
That's a really good measure.
Yeah, we do a lot of stuff. We do pull request reviews. How many pull requests have you reviewed? I think that's interesting. Obviously, we're not going to pay them based on that, but you know, if you want to learn more about the code, if one of your goals is to know more about the iOS app and you're on the Ruby side, we might say this week you should review 2 iOS pull requests. Paul, you could probably talk more about it. You're doing it every day.
Yeah, we have things for, it depends on what the person wants, but for people who want to do more architecture, a lot of times we say, propose a round table or give a presentation on some piece of the infrastructure that you think is interesting. Or if people want to be managers, start coming to some of the meetings, start to be in the design process of new applications, new services, anything like that, start getting involved in the process that happens before actual development happens. So it kind of depends on what the person wants to do. And in most of the goals that we set, like managers don't actually set our goals, it comes from the developer to set the goals. So they have to tell us what they want to do and we're just there to facilitate. And I tell them I'm kind of there to nag them, be like, hey, every week, have you worked towards this or not?
This is great. Thank you very much.
Cool.
Let's call it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Ask me, pull me aside.